is going on, guys? We are back on another video on Madden 22, and today we're doing another experiment video. Now, it's technically an experiment video on Madden 22, but also kind of an excuse to talk about real-life football a little bit. Now, before you get too mad, because there's definitely going to be teams that I quote-unquote get wrong. It's almost impossible. There's a lot of players, you know, on teams that are very solid, and it's like a close 1A, 1B situation. Now, the title might just be like the top two players, but what I'm going to tell you right now is it's going to be the top offensive and defensive player. Otherwise, you know, the offensive players kind of get a little more love in the league. Otherwise, it would pretty much be like the majority of teams' best players would probably be on, be on offense. But I'm telling you right now, it's one on offense, one on defense, each team, and we're going to see what the league is like without those players. So I spent a little bit more time on this video than I thought I was going to, mulling over decisions of players and whatnot. So if you guys enjoy these types of videos, maybe leave a like, maybe subscribe if you're new, maybe follow me on Twitter, Jeromepkr, second channel, PK or plays for non-Madden. All those things would be great, but the first two things would mean the most. And of course, if you're not new, appreciate your continued support a ton. But let's get into our rankings and experiment. Now, there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks, I imagine, but it's not going to just be the best rated player. It's not going to be the most influential player. It's going to be the best player. So, like, let's say the Bears. Justin Fields is super, the Bears are super reliant on Justin Fields being good for them to be good, but I don't think Justin Fields is going to be my player for the Bears offense, as I think David Montgomery is the better in general player technically. Now, Justin Fields has so much potential, and he actually showed some really, really great things despite the supporting cast, specifically that offensive line. But yeah, I think if we're looking at this team, it's going to be Mr. David Montgomery over Justin Fields. You may already be mad at that. You could also argue Darnell Mooney as well, but I think technically this has to go to Montgomery in my opinion. And then for defense, it's a little tough. I feel like Eddie Jackson has been kind of overrated for some time now in Madden. He's just not been the same player he was when he was just the touchdown machine. Roquan Smith is, I know he's the highest overall. He is going to be my player. I know you have Robert Quinn with the crazy sack number that he had. And then, of course, Jalen Johnson, I think, purely might be their best player down the line. And I really do love what he's able to do, but I think Roquan just has to be that guy. His coverage rating is just too good in real life, and obviously in Madden, if you're looking at their ratings. But yeah, so for the Bears, it is going to be David Montgomery and Roquan Smith for me. Let me know in the comment section below. Maybe not for each position. If you really want to, for each team, go through that dedication. That would be sick. I would love to, review your, kind of list and see like, yeah, maybe you were right or whatnot. Or if it's your favorite team, let me know. Try not to get too butthurt if you do. I'm not going to say that because I choose one guy, the guy you had is bad. It's just that's who I think. All right, so the Super Bowl runners-up are the next, or runner-ups are the next team. This one's a little bit tougher because you have a lot of ratings that are kind of thrown in your face, and you're like, oh, hey, what's happening? But it's obviously between Mixon, Burrow, and Jamar Chase for the offensive players. La'el Collins is a nice addition, kind of injured a little bit, not really able to prove himself as much on this list, but it's really tough to go against Joe Burrow for what he can do just as a passer, pure passer-wise. But what he does under pressure is just so much more spectacular. There are a couple of other young quarterbacks, actually, that are really good under pressure as well. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, maybe Josh Allen, but I'm pretty sure Joe Burrow is the best quarterback, at least as of last year, under pressure, and he has to be my guy in this situation. Joe Mixon's a great player and all, but as far as pure running backs go, I'm not saying that people can't do what Joe Burrow's doing, but as far as like, who's the best position to position, Joe Burrow would be up there on that list. Jamar Chase obviously had a crazy season. And then for defensively, you obviously have Jesse Bates. You have guys like DJ Reader, Trey Hendrickson, who appears to be a really good free agent signing. And yeah, I think it's going to be Chidobe Awuzie. The man absolutely balled out for the Bengals. They had themselves a pretty damn good offseason, and I think, at least as of last year, technically is their best player on defense. I know it's going to be tough to say because you got to look at a larger sample size, but this would be kind of a boring video in my opinion if you went just based off of the highest ratings or, long-term, playing. I think just purely if we're going off of last year heading into this year, Chidobe Awuzie was their best defender. But yeah, as far as, them keeping Jesse Bates instead of Awuzie goes, what is the, kind of I wouldn't say reaction, but I guess sort of the reaction to it is like, is it even more important for them to have Bates over Awuzie anyways? I don't know, but they still lose Burrow, so even if you think, let's say I got that one wrong, you're like, oh, clearly it's Jesse Bates. What are you, stupid? It still affects them a lot losing Joe Burrow, right? All right, for this one, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's not as clear-cut, but I've made my mind up on these players. Stephon Diggs is a great player, don't get me wrong. So is Tre'Davious White. Tre'Davious White didn't play as many games, or enough games, in my opinion, to earn their quote-unquote best defender. It's really tough. Obviously, Von Miller's a new addition, so I'm not going to technically count him. But even then, I still think the guy I'm choosing is better anyways, technically. But Josh Allen is a whole football team. He is literally a whole football team. The man can do so much with his legs. He's got a rocket ship arm. Once again, under pressure, he's great. And his accuracy has just come out of nowhere. I just don't understand it. Like, obviously, you're still going to have a little hit or miss, but the man really turned it around. Super shocking story, obviously, and just one of the most fun players in the league right now. And as far as a Madden standpoint goes, may even be the best player in the game when you look at his size, his speed, his arm strength. He's a freak. He's super young as well. Josh Allen is going to be the quarterback or the offensive player. Obviously, we know he's the quarterback. And then for defense, I think it's got to go Micah Hyde. The man is just so freaking talented. Really doesn't get enough credit. As a Packers fan, it hurts. But, I mean, I knew he was good. It's just we didn't really need the position at the time. And I think he's technically the Bills' best defender. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this one either. The Broncos, a team that are kind of almost overrated, right? Like when the whole argument when there was Rodgers trade rumors to the Broncos, it was like, oh, you look at this, and this, and there was so many people saying like, the Broncos haven't beaten this and that and this. Like, they don't really, right? Like, that offensive line is getting some like weird treatment that they're so much better than Seattle's, which they technically are, but as far as a pure offensive line goes, it's still pretty rough. Of course, I bring that up because Garrett Bowles was actually very close for me on being their offensive players. He is a very talented lineman, but it just has to go to Russell Wilson, right? He's still pretty damn good. Even if you were to base last year going into next year and that's how he plays, still just good enough. Obviously playing behind a really bad Seattle offensive line. But the receivers here didn't really, do enough to become the number ones. Melvin Gordon has been a great signing for them. He could have been one of the choices. So it's going to be Russell Wilson. And then as far as defensively goes, it's just going to be Justin Simmons. Of course, Patrick Surtain, he had himself a pretty good rookie season. Once again, that people kind of overrating him as well. I don't want to keep bringing up the Packers, but like everything's relevant, right? Like Eric Stokes was literally just as good as him, and he doesn't get any credit, whereas Surtain, it's like the next greatest cornerback of all time. Like, relax, would you? So as far as this, I mean, Javonte Williams is pretty good too, but, the sample size isn't, high enough technically. But Russell Wilson and Simmons, a little boring, but it's technically correct. And then this one's going to be a little boring as well. I'm not really going to go too far into it because I don't want the video to be too long. Denzel Ward's great. Deshaun Watson, if he actually plays, has a ton of potential. But Nick Chubb is just that guy, maybe even the best running back in the league. It's just a tough task to rank the top three. And then Myles Garrett is an absolute freak. Pressures are just crazy. Sack numbers are also really good. His win rate is just insane. He's just a great player. He's going to be the guy, obviously, 99 overall. Nick Chubb, 96 overall. So I don't think there's going to really be much argument here. Like I said, Denzel Ward's great and all, but I just think it's clear-cut, these two, without a doubt. The Buccaneers, an ultra-talented team that apparently people have completely forgotten about. I don't understand how. I mean, look at their ratings. Obviously, they're insane. But a team that people just completely forgot about. And the most hilarious thing going is casuals when Tom Brady joined this team and won the Super Bowl. And they're like, oh, he's the GOAT. He can take any team. It's not any team. It is an ultra-talented team. It's unbelievably talented. And that was the most hilarious storyline ever. And that's the main reason why a lot of us non-casuals were so mad when he won the ring. Not just because he was adding to that insane trophy case, but because we knew the stupid casuals were going to be like, well, Jameis couldn't do it. It's like Jameis threw like 1 billion picks, and they still were competitive. Like, relax, would you? Of course, ultra-talented team. But speaking of that man, Brady obviously is their best offensive player, as he was probably the best player in the entire league last year. Rodgers got the MVP because of that touch on the pick ratio. You got to look at Rodgers getting kind of lucky on some picks that could have easily went the other way. I can't remember if it was last year, but it seems like it happens every year where the Bears have a wide open interception that they just drop that could have maybe won them the game. Brady was just absolutely insane. People that talk about him falling off was just wrong. Like, just he had his best career season potentially, considering the amount of deep throws that they've had at his age. Tom Brady #1 on offense, and then defense a bit tougher, as Lavonte David is that dude, and for some time was underrated, and now it's now everyone knows. But I gotta go Vita Vea, dude. The things that guy does for the defensive line, he literally is a run defense. Like him out for the Buccaneers games, any game, it's just detrimental. Like he's just so important. He's just a freak, and yeah, I mean those are the top two. So once again, a little boring, but could maybe argue Lavonte. Obviously, we're not arguing Brady. If you argue Brady, you're just either trolling or an ultra hater, even more than me. But Vita Vea, you can maybe argue Lavonte. Like I said, that's probably the only guy I would argue. Obviously, Shaquille Griffin. Barrett is great, but it's Vita Vea or Lavonte, and we choose Vita. Now, this one's hard because the Cardinals had some injuries, and they obviously have some players that are going to be, out. Well, I wouldn't say some, but Hopkins is going to be suspended for some time. But it's a really tough one, actually, because J.J. Watt, when healthy, is their best defender, but he's never healthy. So how can I really put him as their best defender when there is some, truth to the best ability is availability? I gotta probably go Buda Baker. I pretty much have to. So once again, another boring choice. DeAndre Hopkins because Murray's a little too inconsistent. And then Buda Baker because J.J. Watt is literally always injured. So remember that. I already said it out at the beginning, but it's not the most important player to the team, the best player. For all we know, Justin Tucker might be our Ravens pick. Could you imagine? The Chargers, another team that has seemingly been stacked for years and has not lived up to the potential, adding Khalil Mack in the offseason, a guy that he was playing through some injuries himself. Very talented and will probably be easily the best edge rush duo in the league. I mean, it's almost impossible not to be, as Bosa and him are just greats. Will not be my player, though, as Derwin James just does so much and is just that good. I know for a while now he's quote-unquote been overrated because how many games he missed, and yet it was always talked about like, oh, he's so good. If only he could stay healthy. And it's like, it's true, but once again, availability. But, of course, Derwin James healthy is just a freak, so he's going to be our guy here on defense. And then offense, love Keenan Allen, love his route running, especially considering he's really not athletic. Like, he's just not that athletic at all. And you can see that's pretty relevant to the ratings here. But it has to go Justin Herbert. He's just really solid and honestly underrated hard in Madden. 84 overall for Justin Herbert. Once again, I get they don't want to jump the gun a little, too much, but he's clearly their best player on offense. Well, maybe not clearly, because once again, Keenan's really good, and Eckler can do some things with the ball in his hands. But yeah, Derwin and Herbert, I don't really think people are going to argue that one too much. All right, for this one's pretty easy for me to choose, but as far as arguing who their best player is, it's tough, as Travis Kelce is kind of trending towards that greatest of all time status as a tight end. Just so damn good as an all-around player. But Mahomes, not only for the video, because Mahomes obviously means so much more in game as well, for this, kind of experiment. But Mahomes is still just that guy. Obviously, a little bit of struggles early on and is, missing more throws than we're expecting. But as far as being able to make all the throws and just throw it off platform, he's just so good, and he has to be our choice here. Once again, Travis Kelce, insanely talented as well, and if you wanted to say that he is their better offensive player by technicality, at position, Sure, but with them being so close, we're going to give it the nod to the quarterback position. And then defensively, it's obviously Chris Jones. If Tyrann Mathieu was still there, maybe you have an argument. Even then, I'd maybe probably still have Chris Jones as their guy. As without him on defense, I don't know. Not that they're really a defense to be feared anyways, but I don't know if you fear their defense at all. I mean, I feel like you just run it down on them all day long if you don't have Chris Jones there. So really good player. They have potential elsewhere. Obviously, they landed some really good offensive linemen, but as far as the top two, I think those are the top two. Jonathan Taylor is obviously a great player, and he's just so fast. But it's got to be Quentin Nelson. The gaps that Jonathan Taylor runs behind, once again, not trying to take too much away from him, are honestly Trent Richardson career revival level. They are very good. It's ironic because Trent Richardson actually played for this team. Remember, they actually didn't they trade a first-round pick to the Browns? Props to the Browns for turning a bad situation into an okay one. But the blocking of the Colts team is really, really, really good. Quentin Nelson is just that guy. He's going to probably get tackle money as a guard. As far as, not even probably, he will get tackle money as a guard. As far as defenders, Stephon Gilmore, I have no idea why the Panthers let him go. A team that is clearly, or was clearly, having question marks at corner with the amount of corners that they were bringing in. Pretty damn good for the Panthers when he joined them, yet they let him go. And for the price as well, it was really low. Obviously, Stephon Gilmore's on the up and up for age, so that's kind of the main factor for that. But yeah, very good player. Same with DeForest Buckner, but Darius Leonard, even though I've given him some crap over the years, is definitely their best all-around defender. The man is just a turnover machine. And I think with that being said, I think we're just going to give it to Quentin Nelson and Darius Leonard, the true long-term Colts as well. All right, the Cowboys. I'm having a tough time with this one because I think their best offensive player is clearly Zach Martin, has been for some time. Obviously, there's injury concerns, but taking away Zach Martin doesn't do the same for the team as taking away Dak Prescott does. And Dak Prescott is pretty good, even though he gets so much crap. I really don't know why, to be honest. But man, this is tough. Obviously, the defender we already know is staring us right in the face, even though it's a one-year guy. DeMarcus Lawrence is great and all, and I love him in Madden. But Zach Martin, I guess. I really don't want to see the Cowboys win another Super Bowl in Sim because they keep Dak and Zeke and this and that. But Zach Martin really just is that good. And once again, the whole list changes if it's most important player because every team's quarterback pretty much is their offensive best player, right? So we're going to bite the bullet here and kind of just let the Cowboys win it, honestly. That's the way it seems. And then you have the Dolphins, who are still in not really a rebuilding mode. They're kind of in a I wouldn't say reloading. They're just kind of loading, but they're not rebuilding. It's weird. The best players on their team offensively, Terron Armstead is amazing when healthy, but I just got to go with the feel of the work, which Tyreek Hill is just such an X factor, literally, in the league. And I don't know how it's going to work with the Dolphins. They got so many. Once again, Tua's deep ball accuracy isn't terrible, but his arm strength is just so weak. I just don't know if he's going to be able to do as much with Tyreek as guys like Mahomes could. I don't know, but obviously Tyreek has taken a lot of underneath passes the distance, so I'm not sure. But regardless, the top two is going to be Tyreek Hill and Xavier Howard. The defenders are just, they have a couple of guys here and there. Maybe I'm missing someone that is really underrated. I know Jalen Phillips is pretty solid, but I can't give him the nod over Xavier. So Tyreek and Xavier. Eagles, another kind of boring one, as the top two players here are going to be my top two. Jason Kelce has been elite top-tier center for I don't even know how long at this point. And then, of course, Darius Slay, even kind of underrated at this point. I almost feel like people look at him and they're like, he's not the same guy as he once was for the Lions, but he's been just as good. And speaking of, I just don't understand what happened. Why did Darius Slay, he must have demanded to be let go or something, right? Why did Philadelphia get rid of Darius Slay? Am I forgetting a storyline? Was there an injury? Was there a level of bad play right at contract time? I don't know why. Especially for Detroit to be struggling with corner for so long now. They have a little bit of potential now, but I don't understand what happened there. I can't remember. And then for the Falcons, they're going to kind of go quickly through this one as well. A.J. Terrell, one of the league's best young corners, without a doubt. Obviously, Casey Hayward's a great player, but I just think A.J. Terrell is the future, and Casey Hayward's kind of, the past, if you will. And then Kyle Pitts is just an absolutely crazy X-Factor player. Now, it wasn't too hard in general because of the lack of talent here. Maybe if Calvin Ridley actually played some football, maybe he would be that guy. But, yeah, obviously the Falcons, also a team kind of on my radar for a Madden franchise. All right, the Washington Commanders. Another boring one for me, as it's going to be Jonathan Allen and Terry McLaurin. Chase Young's all right, but he really wasn't as great last year as Jonathan Allen was. Of course, Kendall Fuller was a very close call. It was between Allen and Fuller for me. But ultimately, Allen's just going to be able to get that nod, as when you think of Washington, you think of that front, of course, led by Jonathan Allen, obviously, and a team that, once again, it probably does play a lot into the fact that their offense just sucks, but a defense that played worse than I thought they were going to play, to be honest. But Jonathan Allen, and then obviously Terry McLaurin. Please, Terry, request a trade. Don't return. Don't look at the money. Don't look at the paycheck. Actually, no, because the Packers would never make a play. Stay there. Don't go to a team that has a chance. All right, for the Niners, once again, kind of a boring one, but we're not actually going pure highest overall in this one. Debo's great. George Kittle is really great. And even though I don't think a left tackle in Madden matters as much as a tight end or a wide receiver, you just can't ignore how good Trent Williams is. The man might have gotten the highest positional grade ever last year. Just an absolute monster. I would not want to go against him. Fred Warner, an amazing defender, but Nick Bosa is just a complete game wrecker. It's going to be Nick Bosa and Trent Williams for me. You could maybe argue, like I said, Fred Warner or Kittle instead, or Debo if you're a really big Debo fan, which I, as a Packers fan, am not. But yeah, those are my two players. Can we skip the Giants? They had such a bad season. I mean, just based on performance last year, you could put them as the worst team. They're a bottom 3 team as far as performers go last year. I mean, they did have some injuries. We're not going to argue that. But as far as their best offensive and defensive player goes, I'm going to say their best offensive player, even though you probably won't matter in Madden too much, is Andrew Thomas. I mean, they had too many injuries, too many inconsistencies on offense, and that's the one guy that was actually consistent for that team. So unfortunately, Andrew, you are gone here. I don't really know if you can argue much against that. Saquon, when healthy, wasn't even that great, but of course, injured again. As far as defenders go, not as bad, not as bleak. Leonard Williams was pretty decent. Dexter was pretty decent. But I'm also going to go with the fact that real life proves me right here with Adoree Jackson as their best defender. As even though Bradbury carried a huge cap hit, he still was let go when they could have kept him. I think they still believe in Adoree Jackson, and I think you can argue that he was their best defender. Xavier McKinney obviously had a pretty damn good year. And once again, those two linemen I mentioned, but I'm going to give it to Adoree. Now the Jaguars, a team that is pretty straightforward here as well. The best defender on their team is probably Josh Allen. Now, I don't want to keep bringing up the Packers, but in a way, almost considered overrated because of, once again, underrating a guy like Rashawn Gary. They have so many quote-unquote pros, so many experts have him above Rashawn Gary as the best young pass rusher in the league, or best, up there for young pass rushers in the league. So it's kind of weird because he's kind of overrated because of an underrating of Gary, who was just insanely good. But Josh Allen also very, very talented. And then for offensive player, I actually almost went Christian Kirk, a guy that actually kind of is getting disrespected. I know the money's insane and he ain't that good, but it was an open market and you can see why he got paid. It is the Jaguars after all as well, but of course it's got to go Brandon Sheriff. An actual good signing from them. That was a really good signing, and it's going to be another boring one, so top 2 overall again. Of course, Shaquille Griffin also very good. There's some really good defenders on this team, but they still have yet to kind of put it together. For this one, a little boring on offense, as I am going to go Mekhi Becton, a guy that kind of unfairly got graded last year, as he actually played some really, really good edge rushers and still came away with a pretty good pass blocking grade. And then for defense, it's actually going to be John Franklin Myers, even though Quentin Williams, in theory, you would think would be their best player, but just had a better season. Simply put, maybe there's someone else I'm missing here. CJ Mosley, I feel like, has just completely fallen off my radar. The amount of money he got, though, when he left Baltimore was nuts. I thought that was going to be the norm going forward, but yeah, of course, Mekhi Becton and John Franklin Myers are our picks. And of course, you know I love my boy John Franklin. As far as their best offensive player goes, I can't give it to Frank or TJ Hawkinson. Missing too many games for those two, specifically Frank. And Sewell was a very good rookie, despite his and Jamar Chase's preseason quote-unquote woes, if you will. So I'm going to give it to Sewell and Charles Harris. I don't know if you can really argue against this one. Sewell in general was good enough to compete with a healthy Ragnaw and Hawkinson, which they weren't. So you can argue all you want. It's probably not going to matter in this sim anyways because it's the Lions, but there you go. Maybe you can argue the defensive one a little bit better than that offensive pick. Now we move on to the Packers, a team that, if they still had Devontae, would have probably been the favorites to win this experiment, as Devontae would have been my choice, so they would have had the team they have now because they would have no Devontae. Why did I say that? Of course, Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back MVPs. I will admit, kind of a little overrated. You know, the back-to-back MVP thing is carrying a little more weight than it probably should. But a little overrated in the sense of, like, let's say we give him a 92 out of 100 rating, which I don't even know what Pro Football Focus gave him, probably like a 90 or something. I would say it'd be like a 90, 91. You know, it's not that overrated, but just a notch. But, of course, without Devontae here, he's obviously far and wide the best offensive player. David Bakhtiari, is he even going to play football again? You know, like, I can't pick him if he doesn't play. And it's going to carry into this choice, you know. Jair Alexander, the best defender on this team when healthy, but unfortunately was not healthy last year. It's going to actually go to Rashawn Gary, guy we talked about a little bit earlier. Obviously, a lot of really good defenders on this team. Easily the tougher choice between the two when trying to decide who's the better on offense or defense. I think that's pretty clear cut. Also, are we ever going to update Rodgers' photo? Because my man's here is getting some love. The photo he has here is a lot better than the way he's looking nowadays. This photo's got to be like 5 or 6 years old. Like, he literally looks older than Brady in real life. It's kind of sad, actually. But, of course, Rashawn Gary's my defender. Rodgers my offensive player. All right, for this one, Shaq Thompson, not a bad player. Definitely a huge contributor for this team. Jeremy Chin, another guy I really like, but it's just going to have to go to the more influential and quote-unquote better player in Brian Burns. And as far as offense goes, Christian McCaffrey, just too injury prone and injured for me to be choosing him. It's going to go to DJ Moore. You know, availability is the best ability. I just can't. You know, like DJ Moore had more receiving yards this season than McCaffrey had rushing yards in his last 2. You know, and he's supposed to be the guy they run through. So I'm sorry, Christian. You gotta start getting healthy, dude. Otherwise, you're not gonna make my list. I'm sorry. And I know, as far as his priorities go, that one hurts a lot. That's up there. It's you know, it's something that hurts him. All right, for this one, there's a lot of really close calls in this list, and I think it's going to be between David Andrews and Trent Brown, and Judon and McCourty. Of course, Hunter Henry actually had a pretty decent season that people just, I mean, I specifically completely fell asleep to, but I'm going to give it to Trent Brown because it's a little bit tougher of a position to play, and it's more important. And then as far as defense goes, I'm just going to give it to the longtime GOAT of the Patriots defense, Devin McCourty. Of course, where the hell is Hightower, by the way? Is he a free agent? He's actually a free agent. Wow. All right, now we have the Raiders. It's going to be a little bit of a boring one again, not pure overall-wise, but you know, there's not going to be an Awuzie type pick here. It's going to obviously be Devontae on offense. Obviously, Waller's a decent player. Renfro's a sick route runner, but he's clearly their best player on offense, without a doubt, even though he's new. And then, of course, their new addition, Chandler. Nah, it's not going to be Chandler Jones. He's a great player, but Max Crosby has been just so good for the Raiders ever since he was drafted, and he's going to be our choice for defense. Just so freaking good. And then I'm not going to talk too much about this one. This one's just so easy. Aaron Donald, obviously their best defender, as Jalen Ramsey's an insane player, but way more inconsistent than Aaron Donald, without a doubt. I know everyone kind of gets burned every once in a while, but my man's got torched in the Super Bowl. I mean, he did not have a good Super Bowl. I don't know if he just got to let it get in his head, but my man's is getting burned. Of course, Jamar Chase is a freak, but in general, he's getting beat by a lot of players. I know the T. Higgins thing wasn't really fair, but, easy call, those two. For the Baltimore Ravens, you could go with a guy like Michael Pierce. You could go with a guy like Calais Campbell. I would not go Pierce because he just didn't play enough. Obviously, Humphrey is my choice here, but a guy that also technically didn't play that many games, but played enough over Pierce, obviously, and just enough over Calais, as had a couple of injury issues. Obviously, Pierce wasn't here last year, but you know what I mean. And then, of course, Ronnie Stanley could be their best player when healthy. Wasn't. Mark Andrews had that season. He was very good. So it's going to be Mark Andrews and Mr. Marlon Humphrey. All right, now for the Saints, a team that obviously has had some injuries themselves. Michael Thomas, once again, is he finally going to play? Kamara, don't know what's going to happen with him, but definitely had a down year last year. I think my offensive choice is going to be Ryan Ramczyk. I think he's just been that good for them and just stays consistent. And then for defense, this is where it gets tougher, as we know the Saints defense is freakily good. Tyrann Mathieu, adding him to that squad, it's kind of unfair. You have Cameron Jordan, you have Demario Davis, you have Lattimore. I mean, you could even choose Garner Johnson. Marcus May's all right. I think it's going to be between the long-term actual Saints, though, for me. Marshawn Lattimore and Cameron Jordan. Lattimore was really good in coverage. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with the guy that's been more consistent in general, and in general, technically had the better year in Cameron Jordan. I'm just hoping this video is not too long, to be honest. The Seahawks, also a little bit of a tougher team to choose. It's going to be position versus position as well. It's going to be top two wide receivers going against each other and the top two safeties going against each other, as Jamal Adams is not... He really hasn't been as great as the Seahawks were hoping. Absolute L of a trade, without a doubt. But as far as like him being on their team and being the best on their team, I might have to go Quandre Diggs, man. Like, this Seahawks team is really rough, though, I will say. They might be... If it wasn't for Metcalf, they would be hands down my number one team. But you have Metcalf and Fant. Those guys are X-Factor type players in Madden. I don't know, dude. Metcalf is going to be my offensive player because he's just playing the tougher role as the true X receiver. It's a close call, though. Tyler Lockett and him, you could literally put them both side by side, which, I mean, they do in real life. I mean, they're literally their number 1 and 2 wide receivers. But, yeah, I don't know, dude. It's going to be Metcalf, and I'm just for the sake of the video, I'm going to go Jamal Adams. I think Quandre might be the better player, though. It's crazy, but I think he might be. I'm just going to go for, Adams just for the video. It's not going to matter too much. They're not going to compete regardless. And for me here, Deontay Johnson's a tough one to go against, but I'm going to go with Najee Harris just because of, him being able to do what he did behind an uninspiring offensive line is really impressive. So it's tough between him and Deontay. I'm going to go Najee. And then defensively, this is actually tougher than you would think, as Cameron Hayward's an absolute monster. But I think, once again, TJ Watt's the guy you think of when you think of defense for the Steelers. So I'm going to give the slight nod, the ever so slightest nod to TJ Watt. I mean, it's a lot closer than you would think. But, yeah, those are my choices. And then for the Texans, Brandon Cook has just been way too consistent for me not to go with him. Tunsil's great and all, but Cooks is just, he needs some damn recognition, which is ironic because he's now deleted, he's gone. And now we have the Texans, who are just such an awful team. I think are easily my number 1 right now for doing a Madden franchise, but I have to admit, I imagine one of the bigger channels is definitely going to try to snag them up quickly, and I mean, it is what it is. I think, honestly, it's crazy to say, Derek Stingley may already be their best defender. It's actually nuts, but I think it may be true. And you probably didn't even know that this was the quote-unquote updated roster that we're using, but I think Derek Stingley may already be their best defender. I mean, their team is so bad. Like, who else would you say is better? Jerry Hughes wasn't that great last year. Desmond King wasn't that great. Steven Nelson wasn't that great. I'm going to be honest, I don't know how much, Greenard or Kirksey played, so I'm sorry if one of these, low overalls was better, but, I mean, going into next year, I would say that's probably the number 1 best player on their defense, just if you were to predict. And then we're down to the final 2 teams. Derrick Henry, who of course was injured, but still put up a good enough season despite that. So once again, a little bit more boring. Again, top 2 overalls, Derrick Henry. Obviously, just so good. It's crazy to think that once upon a time, he was actually potentially going to be on the way out. You know, a little too inconsistent, just wasn't playing that well. And then they decided, you know what? He's 6'3", like 400 pounds, and runs like prime Chris Johnson. Why aren't we running it more with him? Just let him go straight, and you know it's worked out ever since. And then Kevin Byard got back to his elite ways last season and just went off. So of course, going to be our guy. Obviously, Jeffrey Simmons is a very solid player, but not on Kevin Byard's level. The Minnesota Vikings, the final team on our list. A team that actually isn't as hard to decide on as you know, some of the other ones. Justin Jefferson, I think, is their best offensive player. The thing things he's able to do is just insane. Very, very good route runner. I will say, gets away with more push-offs than probably anyone in the league, if I'm going to be honest with you. But, you know, outside of that, it's just an absolutely insane player. And then defensively, it's tough between Kendricks and Harrison Smith, as I know at times both of them had, you know, their down moments. But I think I probably will just have to go with the guy that's been doing it longer, and it's going to be Harrison Smith. Of course, Neil Hunter could be that number 1 next year, but just too injury prone again. Just got injured. Zadarius Smith, new addition, could be great for him, but once again, just missed the entire season last year, so it's going to have to go to Mr. Harrison Smith. And then we're going to do the actual point of the video, which is the sim. Once again, I'm really hoping this video isn't over 20 minutes long, because the recording is much longer than that. All right, so now the new updated list in the NFL for players with no quarterbacks in sight. Jalen Ramsey, Kelsey, Kittle, CMC. The highest rated quarterback's probably going to be Lamar Jackson by a significant margin, 90+ overall. Then you have Dak. Then you have... Jesus, I mean, there's a lot of high overalls, but... Just take a look at this. You know, you have 91, 90, 86, 85. It goes down very quickly. Is kind of the long story short here. But of course, let's go on, see what the league would look like without those top 2 players at each position. Once again, being the offensive and defensive side of the ball. And yeah, maybe take it with a grain of salt, as well as if it's teams that have those quarterbacks still remaining. Maybe we just kind of ignore that mentally and just say that the teams that were runner-up were actually the winners. But yeah, let's see. I'm going to be really mad if I mess something up and just like forgot to change something. But yeah, we should have our numbers. I don't want to spend, once again, too much time on it. So the Lions are 10-7. Let's take a look at the standings, because that is probably the most important thing. You have the Cowboys, no shocker there. Ravens, no shocker there. Texans at 12-5 is shocking. Buccaneers without Brady, 12-5. Saints 11-6. Bills 11-6. So we're still seeing a lot of the same type of teams up there, but also seeing some teams that you would expect to be there not there because of the quarterback. Rams, sure, they lost Donald and Cup. He kept Stafford, right? I mean, that's kind of interesting. Raiders, I mean, you lost, well, I guess you lost Crosby, but you lost a guy that you didn't even have technically. The Niners lost their left tackle, obviously. Titans lost their running back, which is huge. The Browns, a little surprised they didn't make it, as Deshaun Watson was stuck on the team still. Yeah, I mean, not as big of a difference as I would have expected, but of course the Texans being up there is just crazy. 12-5, I don't know how... Who did they... Okay, wait. I always forget to change the rosters. Did they sign like Cam or something? They didn't. They wow, okay. Interesting, I guess. Never mind. I don't know how they're so good, but they just are. All right, looking at the stats across the board, you have Trask as the best with 31 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, 5,200 yards. Winston, 4,728 for 8. Desmond Ridder, 4,700, 35-5. That looks pretty good, almost MVP level. Davis Mills, not bad. Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace, my dude. Case Keenum, look at him go off. Of course, Justin Fields is decent. Jordan Love was decent. Mac Jones, some pretty good numbers, actually. Dak, not even close to the top, which is just laughably bad. Cap, stop the cap. Of course, they made the playoffs, so I'm going to remove him. Cam Newton, the Bengals, I don't remember if he made it, but I got to update. I'm going to remember to do it. Literally, as I click end, I'm going to remove Cam, Cap, all the guys that aren't going to be playing in real life. Well, Cam maybe has a better chance, but just guys that won't be playing in real life, no matter what the position, let alone quarterback, running back, whatever it is, I'm going to remove it. So any other future videos we do, not that there's that much time left in Madden 22, we'll have them updated properly, right? So let's take a look at the running backs. Shouldn't see too much differences. Not a lot of running backs are removed from their original teams here. Well, not from the original, just removed. Zeke, number 1. Taylor up there. Kareem Hunt is the starter. I mean, obviously, best 1-2 punch in the league. Joe Mixon, great. Dalvin, Kamara. I mean, nothing really too spectacular here. There's no guy that wasn't a starter before that came in and, killed it, that wasn't expected to, at least. What about the Steelers? Mike Davis, maybe, I guess. Thomas Beasley, 1,500 yards. Randall Cobb, 1,400 yards. Brian Edwards, I guess, but he does well in sim anyways. KJ Osborne, that's a new one. AJ Brown, of course, kind of counts. Mechie. Yeah, I mean, not really anything crazy. Gronk on the Ravens. I mean, that's kind of beside the point, but still, it's kind of spectacular. Let's take a look at the highest sack totals. Colton Miller, nothing really crazy there. Defensively, any sack totals that were crazy? Cameron Hayward, no TJ Watt in the way he gets to take all the credit. Khalil Mack, 19. Same with DeMarcus Lawrence, 18.5. Interesting numbers, nothing really crazy. But Desmond King, we were just talking about, 8 interceptions. Miles Jack with 7. Logan Wilson with 6. 8 interceptions, though. Diggs with 5. And then kicking really doesn't matter. We'll take a quick look at the awards. I don't want to spend too much time. I'm just going to kind of look at some MVP there. We're just going to kind of spam through Case Keenum, Gabriel Davis. Nothing really too crazy to see, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. Thibodeau and Desmond Ridder, Rookies of the Year, and there's that. So let's take a look at who will win the Super Bowl. I'm going to be honest with you, it's probably the Cowboys, but let's just pretend we don't expect that, as it is not the Cowboys. It's the Ravens versus the Buccaneers, and Kyle Trask is a Super Bowl champion. This was a real long video of just hating on Brady, wasn't it? All of this effort just because I don't like Brady, huh? Of course. Interesting. No quarterback, no problems. Of course, before that, the Packers. Where are the Cowboys? Dallas loses to Green Bay in Dallas. I suppose that's, kind of a thing that happens a lot. Baltimore killing the Bengals. And then, the Texans getting taken out immediately by Cincy, who doesn't have Joe Burrow. So, the Buccaneers are the best team in the league without their top 2 players. But Houston kind of coming up, showing themselves, into the door. The Saints, once again, it's really... What happened was, it's not that a bunch of new teams showed up. It's a bunch of teams that are on the cusp took advantage of the situation of being a well-rounded team, and the top teams losing their top players, not being able to go all the way. Of course, Green Bay still went pretty far, as Jordan Love is a capable backup, I guess. I don't know. But Baltimore making it all the way with Lamar isn't super shocking. But even then, I mean, we've seen crazier things happen. But that's pretty much how the league would look like if you removed the top 2 players, one on offense, one on defense, from each NFL team. This was more of an excuse to kind of rank the top, player on both sides of the ball on each team. So let me know what you guys thought of those rankings, I suppose. Let me know in the comment section below who I made a huge mistake on that you think was clear-cut the better choice versus the guy I chose. And let me know in the comment section below if there's any other ideas you want to see. Maybe it's not like this, or maybe it is like this, and there's a different one. You're like top 5 players in general. I don't know. Maybe you want to see what would happen if every team's backup quarterback started. Whatever it may be. Let me know in the comment section below. And we'll be back with a Nighthawks video a little bit later today. A rebuild tomorrow of probably the Titans. No video on Friday, and then several on the weekend. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hopefully, you guys, if you're in that heat season like I am right now, it's going to be hot again today and tomorrow. Make sure you're staying cool. No, seriously, though, it's dangerous out there. I think a lot of the countries in that kind of heat belt, if you will. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you guys come back for next video. But until next video, See ya!